Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about Marxism and the subject of the rate of falling profit. And this subject here will be the last one as far as Marxism concerned. With that, I'll leave the subject to my grandson Tristan to follow up on that. Here you go, Tristan.
Thank you. So to understand the rate of falling profit, first you have to understand the two main types of capital that Marx examined. So the two main types of capital would be constant capital, which constant capital is investment into technology, and variable capital, which would be investment into human labor power. Now, I'm going to take a quick detour from the main subject here and explain what labor power is. So when you're working at a company or some sort of enterprise, let's use an example of a pencil company again. I know I've used that example a couple of times. Let's just use it again because it's a familiar example. So let's just say you're working at a pencil factory and your boss hires you and your boss pays you, right? Now, a lot of people, they get this, misconception that your boss is paying you to work. However, this is kind of wrong. Marx thought it was wrong, at least. And the reason why is because he's not really paying you to work, because working is something that is kind of it's a concept that describes something, an action that is already taking place or is already happens. Now, before you're hired at this company, you haven't worked there yet. So your boss is hiring you even though you haven't worked. So labor power is basically, the concept of labor power is basically saying that your boss doesn't really hire you to work. He's hiring you based on what he thinks your potential for work is. So what your potential for labor. So what your potential for labor is would be your labor power. All right, back onto the main subject. Variable power, as I said, would be investment into human labor power. Now, I have to also talk about what profit is in a Marxist sense. So profit would be the total surplus value subtracted by the total amount of capital invested. So that would be the total amount of money invested in either variable or constant capital. So from this, a contradiction in Marx's view arises. So basically, we all know that automation is occurring more often in the economy.
Technology of automation, like robots, and that replaces the manpower.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a cheaper alternative to employing humans and employing their labor power, because you don't really have to pay robots. Robots will just do the work for free. And it's also a lot more efficient.
Just maintenance, basically.
Yeah, essentially. Mm-hmm. So in Marx's view, automation and automated forces in the economy will slowly start to replace humanity, because as I've stated, automation is cheaper, and of course the capitalist is going to go for the cheaper alternative. But here's where the contradiction arises. So in Marx's view, value is created solely from human action, and the reason behind this is because pretty much every product is created or has a cause that originates in humanity. So let's say, like, for example, you're making the pencil, you're a human, you're creating the product of the pencil to sell on the market, then that pencil would be, the value of that pencil would be created by humans. But even if the pencil were to be created by a robot, well, then who created the robot? Humans did. So the value of that pencil is still inadvertently created by humans. So in Marx's view, all value can be traced back to human action. Now, the thing is here, if we replace humans in the economy and we replace them with robots, then that means that the source of value is getting kind of replaced. So that means that there's no definitive source for value. So this means because there's no definitive source for value, because humans are being outpaced by robots, then that means that value cannot be created. And this means that surplus value will fall, right? So as surplus value falls, in order for the surplus value to fall in the first place, the capitalist had to have increased automation in the workplace, or in other words, increase their investment into constant capital. So that means that the capitalist is no longer making a product because surplus value is falling and the investment in constant capital is rising. So that means that they are essentially losing money in that case because they wanted to take the cheaper alternative of automation. Now, a lot of people, they misunderstand the rate of falling profit, this theory, because they say, well, hey, according to our observations, automation has increased profits for capitalists, and that's because the whole economy hasn't been overrun by automation. There are still companies that utilize human labor power to fulfill their need to produce products. Not every company has resorted to automation yet. So in the short term, one individual capitalist will profit initially from automation, yes, but that's because the whole capitalist mode of production hasn't been overrun by
automation.
Automation, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Once you see automation increase in the economy, and pretty much every industry and every company, every enterprise is dominated by automation, that's when you're going to see the profits start to fall. And now the reason behind that is because labor power still exists in the markets that the companies controlled by automation compete in. So it's basically companies that are automated, that rely on automation to produce products, are competing with, as we established before, more inefficient companies that rely on human labor power. So this is, of course, going to result in a short-term profit, but once we start to see, because of the competitive nature of markets, once we start to see more and more automation, that's when the profits are going to fall.
Because there is no
human labor power.
No human labor power and no demand for the product, that because the consumer does not have enough capacity to purchase those products, because they are unemployed because of the robots.
Yeah, that's another factor to the theory we're discussing, is that once humans are displaced from their jobs, they of course won't be acquiring wages, so there's no outlet for them to acquire money from, so they won't be able to purchase the products of the capitalists. So that's another factor to the contradiction that Marx identified.
With that'll finish the subject of Marxism, and next video will start a whole different subject. Thank you for watching, and may God bless.